Thank you everybody for being here this afternoon. We did kind of an impromptu reschedule on this a little while ago, so I just want to take a second to thank everybody in this room. You all have been partners in this project with us in one way or another to help support the funding to come in to support our public utility district and help get this project done without putting the financial burden on our ratepayers. So I really am honored and I'm grateful for Representative Kilmer being here today and for including our relocation project in his community, community project fund program to help offset the financial burden on the PUD to participate in this estuary restoration process that you will hear from some of our planning partners. So with that, I will introduce Representative Derek Kilmer. Thank you for being here today.
Hello.
I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Can we give it up to the PUD for hosting us? Thank you.
My staff,
the whole crew, thank you, and for feeding the masses. So I want to actually just take a second and explain kind of what happened here and then why it happened. So for the first time in more than a dozen years, Congress basically empowered representatives to direct funding towards specific projects in your district. When we started off that process in our office, we decided to do things a little bit differently. We laid out some specific criteria that were important, I think, for our region in terms of where the money would go. And it was things like projects that create economic opportunity. Because I have a district, we live in a district that needs more economic opportunity, and it's projects that might address a threat, whether that be the threat to fish or a threat of rising sea level or the threat to taxpayers and ratepayers of a potential rate hike. We also looked at projects that meet a federal obligation and that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we actually put together a community panel. And part of the reason I wanted the EDC at the table is Jennifer from the EDC was, we had the EDC director from each of the 6 counties that I represent, and then we had a tribal representative, and we had the head of the Minority Business Development Agency that reviewed what ended up being, I think it was like 120 requests that we got, and we only got 10 slots. So I want to give the EDC a lot of credit because it was a ton of work, but Jennifer did an amazing job. And part of our approach in laying out our 10 projects was, one, we wanted to push forward projects that had merit. And two, we wanted to make sure that we didn't leave any communities behind. Because I think oftentimes when you see the federal government push money out the door, they forget rural areas. You know, oftentimes the grant application processes are like super complicated, you know, and that may be easy if you're a big city and have an army of grant writers, but it's a lot harder in rural communities. And so one of my priorities was to say, hey, if we have needs in rural communities, let's make sure we're getting resources to those communities rather than just having it go to communities that generally do a pretty good job of competing for these competitive grant programs. So that's kind of the process that we undertook. And thankfully, you know, that meant that Mason County was able to get some help and that this PUD was able to get some help. We also had projects up the peninsula in Jefferson County and in Clallam County as well, and for 3 coastal tribes that are in the process of trying to move to higher ground, just recognizing some of those needs. And again, in almost all of these circumstances, the money's going to agencies that don't have an army of grant writers on staff. I mentioned one of our priorities was to make sure that the funds go to projects that have merit, and I think this one does, right? This is a winner, and I think others will speak to this. This is a winner for fish as we work on the hard work of recovering our salmon populations. It's a winner for the PUD and for its continued effort to provide affordable, reliable power. And it's a winner for ratepayers, because in the absence of seeing federal funds directed towards an investment like this, that cost would be borne by the ratepayers of this PUD, which, by the way, is the #1 PUD.
Hence the name.
Yeah. So I was really pleased to put it forward because it has merit. I will just mention, and then I want to give an opportunity for Commissioner Shetty and others to speak. Because we went through this process, and because we had an inclusive process that actually had all of the 6 counties and the EDCs at the table, because we had tribal communities at the table, our office was rare in that of the 10 projects that we put forward, all 10 got funded. We went 10 for 10, which is great. And, and we're undertaking the same process now that that bill was passed by the president. We're undertaking the same process for this year. I want to just mention one other thing, and that is, and we were just visiting about it, the infrastructure law, the bipartisan infrastructure law that passed also provides a bunch of resources for roads and bridges, for water systems, for rural broadband, which is a big deal for the district that I represent because we're in the bottom third of the country when it comes to access to high-speed internet. And one of my priorities, and thankfully in the bipartisan infrastructure law, there are carve-outs for rural communities. There are some set-asides for rural areas. But one of our commitments, and I've visited with the county commission and I've visited with, I think, every city in the district that I represent, we want those dollars to come to our region. And so my commitment to this PUD, to this county, is if you go after any of those infrastructure dollars, we'll support it. And we want to make sure that those projects are able to move forward with the cost not solely borne by the taxpayers of Mason County. Among those pots of money, since we're here talking about a project that's important for fish, is I led the charge in the House, Senator Cantwell led the charge in the Senate on a new $1 billion program for culvert removal and replacement. We have huge challenges on that front in this state, and the state even lost a lawsuit as a consequence of that. But having the federal government have some skin in the game means maybe some of those projects can move forward, again, without that cost solely being borne by taxpayers and ratepayers here in our state. So again, my commitment to you is, if you've got projects in that regard, let's go after it. Let's go make that happen, because I want to see projects able to move forward in Mason County. I care a lot about this community, and we want to make sure we're doing all we can to help. So with that, one of your great champions and one of my great partners is your Commissioner, Kevin Shetty, who's done an amazing job, not just talking about some of these infrastructure issues, but other needs. So I wanted to give him an opportunity to say a few words too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Congressman, and just appreciate you taking the time to come out to Potlatch today. It's a beautiful day out on the canal, and we're just so fortunate to have you here with us today to talk about the work that you're doing on our behalf in Congress, but also to celebrate a big victory for our community and PUD 1. I think just being able to recognize that we spend a lot of time talking about what Congress doesn't get right, that it's great to be here talking about something Congress did right for our communities, and in large part because of your support. So thank you so much for that. And really, this is about celebrating Mason PUD #1 and everything that you've been able to accomplish through this process. I think when we look at whether it's the bipartisan infrastructure package or it's the American Rescue Plan, you've really set the pace for Mason County and have been a great partner to the Mason County Commission. And so we know that there's another round of that funding coming here in the next few weeks. And so I'm excited to see what you have in store for your ratepayers and this utility next. I think the sky's the limit for our community. And Congressman Kilmer is absolutely right. When we look at projects, we're trying to find that multiplier effect. Yeah. So that not just because it saves ratepayers, that's important, but we're looking for projects that can help improve fish passage. We're looking for projects that help make us competitive economically. The pandemic was a real reset for a lot of communities, and I think the big takeaway that I have is first and foremost the power of partnerships. No one agency, public or private, in our community can do it alone, and so we're grateful to be able to do these projects with you. But also, it shouldn't take a crisis for us to figure out how to do these projects. We shouldn't wait until there's no more excuses. And so, we have a great representation in the state with Senator Sheldon and Representatives McEwen and Griffey, but also having those champions for us in Washington at the federal level to be able to say, rural communities matter, Mason County matters, and let's bring some of those dollars here and invest in these communities so that can be competitive for opportunity. So just really excited to see this project get underway and completed, and I know that it's going to be a huge success for the PUD, and just very excited to see what the future holds.
Thanks. Yeah, and my board chair, Mike Sheets, he and I were just talking about that, about the work that the PUD lines out. We have our work plan. We do have these weird one-off projects, like you said, that send us into crisis modes that we weren't prepared for in our 5-year plan for our budget. But all the time, the way that we work is we try to find partners to get that multiplier. Like when we have a ditch open, can we get fiber in that ditch and help with rural broadband deployment? If we're replacing water main, does Mason PUD 3 need to get conduit in there because they know they need to replace that power line? And Mike and I were just talking about that. I don't know if you want to say anything about.
Just like everybody else, thank you. It's a team.
Yeah.
Everybody has to work together in order for us to win and make it to the other side. With Kevin on the commission and Tim over Olympia, you in the Congress back there, I think it helps us know that there's partners there that are on the team that are going to understand what's going on here. And Kristen and Katie here, now we've hired what do you call them?
Engineer.
The grant writers?
Yeah.
Anyway, to help out with that, because it's burying these guys.
Yeah.
A small utility like this, and then the help that you've given to get that grant to help with that estuary project up there, and other grants that these guys have picked up on that we've got coming down the pipe. It's just helping us to grow the building community that we live in, and so thanks.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We really do appreciate you guys' help. Without your help, we wouldn't be able to do as much as we can. And we do, Kevin, we do really appreciate all your help.
Yeah.
Congressman, we really do appreciate your help. I mean, without it, we'd be struggling a lot harder, and we do appreciate it.
We got your back.
Yeah. We're getting millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure projects done thanks to ARPA, thanks to the Community Project Fund that ordinarily we just, like Ron said, we wouldn't be able to afford to do. And we're getting it done. Like, it's not just planning, like it's shovels.
Awesome.
We're getting it done.
And then everyone's noticing it.
Yeah, they are noticing it. Yep.
And that's good, all the way around.
And then this project is unique because it has so many other planning partners. So we have Teresa from Fish and Wildlife, and then we have Mindy from the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. I don't know if you ladies wanted to talk about how what Mason PUD is doing kind of plays into the larger estuary project.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly speak to that and pass it off to you, Mindy. So this is exciting. Again, like everybody said, thank you for your help. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. When we talk about partnerships, this is a big one. This is something that I have been working on at the Department of Fish and Wildlife for my entire career there, which is over 16 years at this point. So I feel like we're at the start of something, and yet it has been going on for a long time to get us to this point, and the partnerships to get us here, the support we've had back in DC over all of those years to get us here, and now that we're actually like looking at a place on the ground and bringing in people and hopefully not surprising people last minute. I think we came to you at the end of 2019 and said, hey, we've got this project coming sometime in the future here. We're looking at doing something that's kind of exciting here in Washington State. We've all heard a lot about salmon recovery and restoration, and that is part of the objective of this project. What we're realizing, though, is that recovery opportunities are going to be more and more kind of co-located where you have major infrastructure like this US Highway 101. So the price tag for projects is going to go up, the partnerships to get them done is going to go up, and when you want to do something, in my mind it was very simple when I first started the project, we're just going to move the road. It's no big deal. We can't move the road because there are utilities on the road. So the first thing that has to happen before we can even start this project is the utilities need to be located. We can't cut off electricity to the community. And so that's why it's been great to work with the PUD early on and work through how we're going to do this and do it together and minimize impacts to everybody and come out with a great project on the end.
Yeah, and again, thank you all for all of the support. Federal level, county level, state level, for sure. We've It's been an amazing partnership, and I feel like this funding is just kind of what kicked us off and really allowed us to really start charging forward with great momentum. And I'll speak for the salmon. This project is incredibly important to salmon recovery throughout the canal. We've been working so hard for Good Canal Summer Chum for the last 20 years, and this project will make an amazing difference to them because estuary habitat is so important to those juvenile fish, and this will open up a lot of acreage for them and create habitat that's really going to be very beneficial to those fish and move us towards recovery. So I really greatly appreciate the support on this project. It's been amazing to see everybody come together and just make it happen.
Yeah. And like you said, this funding is the first like real funding that's materialized. So it's actually building the momentum for the state budget appropriations and hopefully some federal funding coming in to help close that gap where you guys are from where you are, where you need to be to get your part of the projects going on the state level. So this is really the catalyst for it. Good. So thank you. It wouldn't happen without your support.
Well, thanks for putting in such a good project. And here's for more to come.
Here's another side effect of that. The elk are going to really appreciate it.
Yes.
There's been numerous elk and how to put it, shorten their life because of the highway.
Yeah.
And that's going to make a big difference to those elk herds.
No doubt.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the private internet and phone service providers are partnering with us because we got the funding to open the ditches, so they're going where we go. So it's going to help put rural broadband out to that Duckabush area where they didn't have it before, and it's a win-win. Everybody's winning on this. It's a really good. It feels good. It feels good. I'm excited to put it out to bid and get it going. We're right on the final meetings of design right now, and as soon as WashDOT okays that design, we're putting it out to bid. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Back to like 100 years ago, doesn't it? Building the poles and building the power structures, and the phones were going in, and the people out at the end of those dirt roads were getting their power finally, and had a light bulb in the barn and a phone on the wall.
Yeah.
Here we are 100 years later, and what are we doing now?
Yeah.
We're having that broadband to everything,
Yeah. Same thing.
I do wish we could go back in time and say, hey, don't build roads over salmon habitat a little bit, but we're figuring it out. We're getting there.
It was hard to do in 1932.
Yeah.
That was the corridor.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention it kind of brings back to mind. One of the things I realized as a county commissioner, that there are only 5 counties of the 39 in Washington and only have one city.
Yeah.
And you represent 2 of them. You represent 40% of the counties in Washington and only have one city. So if you're Grace Harbor or you're Lewis County with 9 cities, when these projects come up, the cities, they clock like that out.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit more difficult for the real rural counties like us and Jefferson to acquire big dollars. But you realize that, I know.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate your advocacy on our behalf.
You bet. We got your back. We'll keep pushing too. I also just want to thank you for showing up today. I know we had to reschedule a couple times. Once because I think the first time was votes got scheduled, and then the second time the president came to town. So
I don't know.
Sorry,
you chose Joe Biden.
I would have.
Kristen.
I only just didn't want to diss the president. So.
You should have just brought him to the shop.
I tried. Honestly, we invited him to Mason County, but anyhow, I do appreciate everybody showing up, and thanks for bringing the ice cream. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here, you guys.
Go
Thanks.
dive in. Yeah. Thanks.